Okay, folks. Hello, 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 hello. Hopefully the technology is working here. I think I got the camera angle figured out. It's kind of interesting when you're doing these things solo. Hopefully my top of my head isn't cut off or whatever. Anyway, great to be with all of you here and on this Facebook Live. And my name is Kelvin Chin, and I'm here to tell you about my 6-part live video conference series on afterlife and reincarnation experiences. So I'm really excited to be starting this 6-part series again next Sunday, on Sunday, September 23rd at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So you have to do the math and figure out time zones. You know, that's 4 p.m. on the East Coast and 3 p.m. in Central. And I know I have some folks who are interested in London. So what's that? That is 8 hours, 9 p.m. in London, 10 p.m. in Paris. So, and it even works in Australia. I have some folks who are interested in Australia, parts of Asia, New Zealand, and so forth. That's 6 in the morning, different day for them. But anyway, I'll be doing this 6-part series, this 6-session series live every other Sunday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific. So it's going to be live, it's going to be interactive just like this. And actually I'm not going to be doing it on Facebook Live, I'm going to be doing it on my GoToMeeting video conference account, so you can literally be talking and interacting with me verbally on my GoToMeeting account when I do these video conference series. And you could also ask questions in the chat room and so forth, just by typing. People can call in on their phones, or they can use their web link on their laptop or smartphone. So people do it all different ways. There's different ways you can be private. You don't have to put your real name there. You don't even have to say your name and so forth. You can just tell me if you want to be private, because I understand that some of these things are a little bit sensitive. When we're talking about afterlife, reincarnation experiences, death and dying, it can be a little bit personal and sensitive. So I'm completely 100% conscious and sensitive and aware of that. Each session is going to be about an hour and a half long. I just finished doing a 6-part series. It was really fun. It was really exciting for me and very educational, and I think helpful for a lot of people. You can read some of their comments on my website, the folks who just took it. But they've gone generally about an hour and a half to 2 hours, because the interaction has been so great. I mean, I'll get into in a second with you some of the topics I'm going to talk about, but it was so exciting because people I would talk for maybe 50 minutes, maybe an hour on the high end, and there was another hour of discussion. It was so interactive, and people were sharing so many of their experiences and asking questions of me based on my experiences and so forth. It was really cool. So as I said, very interactive. And just so you know, in case you miss a session, all the sessions are recorded. So you can go, I'm going to send you a link. So everybody who's registered for these sessions will get a link subsequently, usually within 24 hours. You know, YouTube has to upload it and all that stuff. By the way, if anybody is texting me right now, I can't see it because I'm using my camera. Probably should be looking at my laptop at the same time. Seeing if anybody is texting me. So anyway, so that's the kind of general format of how it's working. Yeah, so don't worry if you miss a session. No worries there, because you can always watch the recorded session afterwards. And so some of you may sign up for all 6 in the series, and then have something come up unexpectedly. Don't worry about that. So like I said, it's going to be every other Sunday starting on September 23rd at 1 p.m. Pacific. So and just so you know, before you can register now on my websites, and you can read what others who just took the first series are saying about what they experienced with it. And you can go to either of my I have a few nonprofit websites, kelvinchin.org. They're all .orgs because they're nonprofits. So just my name, kelvinchin.org, is one easy way to find it. And you'll just see under programs, it'll say video conference series. It's pretty obvious. And or you can go to my overcomingthefearofdeath.org website. It's just those words, overcomingthefearofdeath.org. And many of you have already been there, I think, to my website. And you'll see the under the program heading, you'll see the video conference series. But for those of you who don't know me, let me tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about Kelvin Chin, and why I'm doing these series, and kind of what drives me now. I had a corporate life for many decades, supporting my family and so forth, but now I'm doing my nonprofit work full time. And so I have a nonprofit called Overcoming the Fear of Death that helps people worldwide. And I know a lot of you, I'm an administrator of the Fear of Death, one of the Fear of Death Facebook group, one of the administrators, and I'm also on many other Facebook groups, and I know a number of you are members of those groups and seen me make comments and so forth. Before I went on here, I noticed there were about 150 people waiting for me, so sorry I was a few minutes late getting this going. So I have this Overcoming the Fear of Death nonprofit. I've helped people with fear of death and dying issues in more than 26 countries now, every religion, including atheists. You don't have to be a religious believer you don't have to be a religious believer in any of this to have to get a benefit from what I'm doing in my work. Non-religious approach. I take a non-religious approach as it relates to helping people with all issues around death and dying. I also teach a meditation technique I call turning within meditation. I've been teaching worldwide for over 40 years. Thousands of people, somewhere north of 5,000 people, or I don't count anymore. It's an effortless, easy, non-religious process. So that's something you can also check out separately on my websites if you're interested. But as it relates to this 6-part series on afterlife and reincarnation experiences, I've had many personal experiences for decades with the other side, we'll call it. And I've included many of those experiences and many of mostly other people's experiences in my book that I know many of you have read. It's called Overcoming the Fear of Death is the name of the book. It's available on Amazon and a whole bunch of other places online. You can just Google it, and there's a whole bunch of places you can buy it, Barnes & Noble, online bookstore, etc. But in this video conference series that I'm going to be doing, I'll be giving much more detail on some of the experiences that I mention in my book, as well as I'm going to add new ones to the discussion, new experiences and new details about some of the stuff that I talk about in my book somewhat, because you can only put so much detail in a book, and I get into much greater personal experiences, my own experiences with the afterlife, on the other side, memories that I've had, experiences I've had today, literally today, or yesterday, or in current 21st century time as well. Plus, my reincarnation experiences go back 6,000 years, my personal experiences. So I get into that. How did that happen? How did that unfold? When did it unfold? It started unfolding 40 years ago when I was 26 years old. But mainly what I'm also going to do in the series is I'm going to share perspectives that I've gotten from all of these experiences. So in other words, how do I use that today? Because otherwise it's cocktail party talk. Big deal, right? So I talked to somebody who's dead. But I got information from somebody who's dead that I didn't know about anything that I'm sharing with this person about some dead loved one. So they're communicating with me. Or I have some reincarnation experience from 1100 AD, let's say, and it's experience XYZ, whatever. I get into the details of it in my book somewhat, a little. Actually, I don't get into that one in my book. But, sorry, I get into my slave one in my book, and I'll get into it in more details. I'm going to describe to you in more detail what my emotional experience was in that slave experience when I was a slave 2,300, I think it was like 2,300 years ago. 330 BC. I was a slave. And what was the emotional experience that I had? I don't get into that too much. I don't get into that much detail at all in the book. But I also want to talk about these experiences as they relate to us today. How does that help inform me who Kelvin Chin is today? Because to me, it's all about self-knowledge, right? It's about knowing thyself, knowing more about who I am, so that I, as Kelvin Chin, today in 2018, can function more effectively and have a more enjoyable life now. So I'll get into those kinds of perspectives that I've gotten over the last 6,000 years through my memories and so forth. We're going to talk about the structure of the afterlife. What does the structure of the afterlife look like? So you've heard through all the many NDE groups that I'm a member of, and I know many of you are watching this from some of those Facebook groups that we're co-members in, you and I jointly. We hear other people's experiences about their near-death experiences, NDEs, or their OBEs, their out-of-body experiences. So I'm going to talk about some of my experiences with regards to those areas, and other people's experiences with regards to those areas. We'll talk about that. But how does that relate to what the structure of the afterlife is on the other side? Because you have the subjective experience that somebody has had, and then there's an objective reality to the structure of experience, okay? I'm going to talk about that as it relates to the afterlife. Okay, we'll talk about the idea of hell and punishment. You know, a lot of people are worried about punishment. Does that happen on the other side? I'm going to give you what my experience has been as it relates to that. Soul contracts and relationships. We're going to talk about those things in the context of the 6-part series also. So let me just kind of give you, I'll just run through the titles of the 6-part series, and you don't have to scribble these things down. You can just go to the website, kelvinchin.org or overcomingthefearofdeath.org, and you'll see this laid out there in detail. But I'll just run through to just kind of give you an overview, a taste of the kind of the range of the stuff we're going to talk about in addition to what I just told you. So the first session is called What Happens When We Die? What happens when we die? We'll talk about that in the first session. Second session, can we get glimpses of the other side? So we're going to talk about NDEs, near-death experiences, and OBEs, out-of-body experiences, and other related experiences that may not have a name, they may not have an acronym, but where we can kind of get glimpses of the other side. That's the second session. The third session is about reincarnation. Is reincarnation in your future, in your past? How do we remember them? How do past life memories come up? Is it important to? I'm going to talk about how my memories have come up and how I've coached other people who are interested in opening up their memories. I'm going to give you some tips on that kind of stuff. Practical tips. Fourth session, why do people think there's a hell? So I talked to you a little bit about this already. We're talking about hell, this idea of punishment and so forth. What about that? What's the history of hell? Where did this idea come from? And is it just in Christianity? The short answer is no. It's in many religions. And where did that come from? And did Jesus preach that there was a hell? Did these spiritual teachers teach or preach that there was a place of punishment? We'll talk about that. So the fifth session, how about friends communicating with us from the other side? What about visits from dead loved ones? How common is that? What forms does it come in? How does that happen? Why does that happen? How come it starts and stops and that kind of thing? I know some of you we've conversed via text on some of these Facebook groups that we're in on nature of reality and fear of death and near-death experiences and near-death reincarnation science and all these Facebook groups that we're co-members in. We've talked a little bit about this. I'm going to get into this in much greater detail. What about angels? What about angels? Do they exist? And what about communicating with them? I'm gonna talk to you about my experience communicating with angels for years, for a period of time, and so forth, and how did that happen, and where did I go with that, and so forth. I'll share that experience with you, and what was my takeaway. And then the last session, the sixth session, what part of us continues after our body dies? So what happens after we physically die? This physical coil is dead. What happens? Is it our mind, our soul, spirit, consciousness? What do we call this? Or is there something else that may continue after our physical body dies? We're going to get into that in some detail. So that's kind of the overview. 6-part series. I didn't want to spend too much time here going over all this stuff with you, but if anybody wants to shoot me some questions, why don't you shoot me some questions now, and I will see them on my Facebook timeline here. I think that's where I'm seeing them, right? If there's someplace else I should be seeing them, maybe somebody could clue me in and tell me to look someplace else. I haven't done a lot of Facebook Live stuff. I'm going to be doing more Facebook Live stuff. Hi, Steve. Marlene, great. Mila, cool. Okay, let me talk to you. I see your question, Mila. I'll answer that question in a second. Velma, hey, great. Great to have you on from Florida. So again, just before I'll just give you a second. People want to type in any questions on my Facebook timeline. I'm hoping that's where they show up. I'll answer the questions in a second. But yeah, so just to kind of wrap up the overview part. So we're going to meet via video conference live. So it's live, just like this, except via my GoToMeeting video conference account, so that you can literally talk with me in real time. So it's live in real time every other Sunday, starting at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I'm in Los Angeles, so 1 p.m. Pacific time every other Sunday. So it's alternate Sundays. So it gives people a week off to think about it, also to watch the video again. I'll send the recording of the live session, the recording to everybody in the session, everybody who's in that session, and they can watch it. So I give you a couple of weeks to think about what we just talked about. Watch that session 3-4 times on your own if you want to, the one we just did, and then kind of prep for the next session. So that's why it's every other week like that. It works really well that way. I'm starting September 23rd, just to be clear. Sunday, September 23rd, 1 p.m. Pacific. And so it's just going to be, it's a lot of fun. And it's very eye-opening is what I've been told. You're going to go to my website and you can read what some of the other folks have written. It's really heartening from my standpoint, because I'm all about helping people reduce their fear about death and dying. That's my focus right now with my work. I help people with high anxiety for sure. I have a lot of high anxiety clients who are not afraid of death and dying, and I work with professional athletes in teaching them the meditation class and so forth. So I do a kind of a breadth of stuff, but my passion is to really help people live more presently, enjoyably in their lives right now. So you can see that, you can kind of probably feel the passion I have about it. And so you can go on that website, the websites I told you, kelvinchin.org or overcomingthefearofdeath.org, and you can register now. Oh, by the way, I'm running an early bird special. I don't know if you guys saw that on the post, the Facebook post, but I'm running an early bird special now for $100 for all 6 sessions. So that's like, tell people like, it's like going to a movie and getting a thing of popcorn and a Coke, you know. Instead, you can come here and we'll have a discussion about the afterlife and reincarnation and what's it like. So I try to make it really affordable is my point. So $100 for all 6 sessions is the early bird special I'm running now, and you'll see it on the website. After the early bird special runs, it'll be $125 for all 6 sessions. Still a great deal. And those people just want to do a per session. They're really not interested in all 6 sessions. Then you can just come in and come out for $25 per session. But you can see the early bird is $50 off. You know, early bird $100, $50 off the you know, if you do the per session rate, $25 per session, it's $150. So I'm really trying to make this affordable for people. And the experience of that, I had a whole bunch of people, had almost 3 dozen people in my last class, you know, almost 30 people in the last class, the first one I did. And I think it's going to mushroom. It's going to grow as the word gets around. And I can have as many, I think, as 150 people, I think, on the video conference account that I have right now. But my point is that most people have found the greatest value of getting all 6 sessions because there's a progression there, and they can go back and they can listen, even, as I said, because of the recording, even if they haven't been able to sit in on the live session. So let's see. Okay, Erica, I just described that, the how much does it cost thing. And then anybody who's joining late, you know, you can go to the website, kelvinchin.org or overcomingthefearofdeath.org, and it describes it in detail there. And somebody's asking me if I could send a private message every time the session is going to start each week. Well, yeah, I do that, and I send you, thanks for mentioning that, Erica. I send you an email every single time, and I tell you, okay, here's, you know, here it's going to start, and then it's going to be the next day or whatever. I tell you, and then I get into you know, do it again the day of, just reminding people, and private message, or in some cases I have people's text. If I have your cell phone, it's even easier for me to text, or I can private Facebook message you. That's pretty easy as well. Yes, thanks Michelle for putting that up there. Michelle saying, I'm so grateful to have been a part of the first video series. Thank you, Kelvin, for sharing your gifts with us. Yeah, thanks for that comment, Michelle. Great to see you here. Let's see. So Tom's asking for a discount. Here's the thing. Thanks, Tom, for mentioning this. Actually, I want to mention something. If you, and I seriously mean this, if you are, oh, Tom's asking for a couple's discount. Actually, he's doing this in, he's doing this in gene code to me. Tom, I didn't get it at first. Yeah, so couple's discount, absolutely. You just send me a text and we can figure something out. So, but here's something that you reminded me, Tom. If you are financially strapped, and I mean this sincerely, seriously, private message me, and I will comp you in. You know what that means? I will charge you nothing, or some very reduced rate. If you can donate something to the nonprofit, great. I want this to be inclusive for people. This is not a money-making thing. Yes, I have expenses and so forth, and my nonprofit has expenses, etc. So otherwise, I just do it for free. But my point is, I want to be inclusive, and I want to help people, as many people as possible. And so, you know, some of you who were in my, who may be on this now, who were in my last class, know that. And I am about embracing and helping people move forward with their lives, whatever that means. Okay? So you just PM me, private message me. You know, let's see. I have 11 comments here. And I don't see them all. I don't know if somebody can text me and tell me how to open up all of the other questions that were here a second ago, and now they're just scrolling away on this Facebook Live. If I haven't answered your question, if you could ask it again, type it in here, and then it'll scroll up again, and I guess I'll see it. If you could ask it again, type it in here, and then it'll scroll up again, and I guess I'll see it. All right, that was me. Time. Let's see. Okay, now I can see him. Now I'm scrolling. All right, let's see. Oh, somebody's in from Vancouver. Awesome. Great. Oh, Mila was asking about going to see a medium soon and about preparing for the session. You just go in. Here's the thing, Mila. I do talk about this a little bit in the 6-part series also, which is the main thing is it's the preparation for going to see a medium. Quite frankly, is selecting the medium. That's the preparation. It's not about preparing yourself before you go to the medium. It's about selecting the medium. You want to be selective of somebody who is going to be helpful for you. So all mediums are not the same. So here, that's the short answer. I get into a much more detailed answer about this in the 6-part series. That's the critical thing, you know. Okay? Any other questions? Anything else before we call it quits here? And, you can always reach out to me. Other questions, private message me on Facebook. Shoot me a message on my contact page. If you want a private phone session with me, if you actually have specific issues around death and dying, you can always go to any of my contact pages on any of my websites, and my calendar is there. My calendar is literally there, and you could just make an appointment with me. And I don't charge for an initial phone session about anything with anybody in the world. Okay, so that's part of my nonprofit work. I offer that a free phone session for people about any issue around any of the issues that we're talking about. Okay, well, great to have all of you on. I think I answered all of the questions here, and thank you, Michelle, for being on and recommending the video series to folks. Mila, great. Yes, an initial home session, just like I said, Mila. Just go on my calendar on any of my websites. On the contact page, you scroll down. My calendar is there. It's literally right there. Just click on the calendar, open it up, make an appointment with me, and we're good. Great. Excellent. Thanks, everybody, and hope to see you soon. Hope to see you, a week from Sunday, so September 23rd at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Again, try to grab the early bird special if you can. If not, I'll see you then. You can always join later. You can always join after the first session and pay for the 6 sessions, and I will give you the link to the recording for the previous sessions too. So I had some people do that in the last session too. They joined midstream or whatever. They couldn't make their mind up or whatever. Or if you have friends and you tell them because you're in it and you go, wow, you should join this, they can join and they can get access to all 6 sessions retroactively. Okay? Cool. Great to have all of you on. Thank you so much for participating in the Facebook Live here. Take care.